Hello there, Pursuing Freedom friends. Thanks as always for being with me today. I've got a great interview for you today with Phil Treadwell, who's actually a regional VP with Mason McDuffie, which is a mortgage organization, a mortgage lender. And I don't typically have lenders on the show since the introduction specifically states that we interview top producing real estate agents. However, I know that you are going to gain a lot of insight and value and knowledge from Phil. Phil is the host of the Mortgage Marketing Expert podcast, and he has interviewed the likes of Gary Vee and Ryan Serhant and many other influencers in the marketing space. He's also the co-host of Industry Syndicate podcast, which is essentially a collective of podcasts that bring value to the real estate community. So you're going to want to download that app for sure and be able to bring all that content into one place. But essentially what I was thinking is that not only is Phil going to provide insight to you as a real estate professional on how you can level up your game as a marketer in today's world, but also that you can share this episode with your preferred lender, because Phil and I want to dive deep into how lender partners really should look to real estate agents, not just lenders trying to get a deal and waiting for the next deal and waiting for realtors to do all the work, but lenders who actually show up and truly partner with their realtor friends and partners. And we've got a lot to share with you guys today. And I think it's going to be a unique perspective. So with no further ado, Phil, I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey and how you've arrived at your place in the mortgage industry and in the real estate community at large. And we'll just kind of roll from there.
Awesome. Well, Aaron, I first of all want to thank you for having me as a guest on, excuse me. Thank you for having me a guest on the show. And I love what you're doing for the real estate and mortgage community. My background is about 16 years in mortgage and in real estate. Prior to that, I'm a product of a home builder and a teacher. So I had a good mix of academia and entrepreneurship. And I got in the mortgage industry off of a newspaper ad, of all things, ironically. They were looking for someone that had sales and management experience. I had both and fell into the mortgage business and really never looked back. But as my experience progressed, I was an independent mortgage banker for a little correspondent company. I owned my own broker shop for a while and then got bought out during the crash of the mid-2000s. And so I've had an opportunity to be parts of all kinds of the industry. And then several years ago, I noticed as I was recruiting outside of markets that I either had worked in as an originator or had branches in, that my recruiting effectiveness went way down. And I realized that it was because no one in those markets had either heard of me or my company or whatnot. And so I started opening up this world of marketing, specifically content marketing at the time. And so I kind of took control of my online profile because people Googled people at that time. And so I did a blog and I did, some articles about things in the industry to kind of give something for people to see whenever they tried to reach out. Who's this Phil guy? And so that very quickly progressed into social media, because none of us actually Google anyone anymore. We creep on each other's profiles on social media. And so through that, I started realizing what people engaged with, what they didn't. I started an Instagram page called Mortgage Marketing Expert, where I offered up a mortgage marketing tip of the day. That turned into a podcast where, because frankly, after about 100 days of trying to give these little one-liner tips, I started running out of stuff to say, because there's only so many things that you can say over and over without acting like you're repeating yourself. And so I realized that if I did a podcast and I interviewed other experts in the industry, I would have some additional stuff for this Instagram page. And little did I know the podcast would grow to be much bigger than any individual social media page. And through that, it's opened up a lot of opportunities for speaking engagements. And like you said, to interview some incredible guests, both in and out of mortgage and real estate. And just really kind of developed a brand within the industry of someone that was able to provide good information to help people build their business. And as you said, I'm the co-founder of Industry Syndicate, which is just a podcast network for mortgage and real estate professionals. We have about 30 different shows. And it's just a collective of podcasts for the industry where we share content and help people. And so that's kind of in a nutshell my journey within the industry. As you and I have gotten to know each other, I'm very passionate about helping people in this space build their business. I think we've had a lot of disruption. There's a lot of topics that we could talk about because of all the things that are happening, not only right now in this, the last few weeks with coronavirus and whatnot, but just what's happened over the last few years in our industry. So I'm excited to come alongside people like you that are trying to put out good content and help people, really realize where their niche is and then how to be successful in our current market environment.
So I love that you touched upon niche right out of the gates here, because it was something that I wanted to cover with you, because it's something that I think a lot of people in our industry are fearful of having a more narrow focus, when in reality, what I've found to be true is that the most happy and successful professionals in our industry are very specific about what they're good at and who they want to serve and who they want to collaborate with. So what is your advice to folks either in the lending world or realtor world on, niching down, and what does that look like, and how do you identify what your niche should be and things like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to steal a line that I heard at Gary Vee's Age 2021, there are riches and niches. And I'm very pro people finding a niche to really kind of differentiate themselves within a market. And I think that the misconception about a niche is that if you try to focus on one specific segment of the industry, that's going to alienate all the greater majority. When what in fact it does is it opens up the door for you to be recognizable outside of so many faces that are there. And this is applicable for both real estate and mortgage. Is you've identified yourself as someone that's really, really good at one thing, but nothing in there says that you also can't do other things. And so when it comes to kind of finding what your niche is, I think it's a mixture of what do you enjoy doing? What are you naturally good at? What are those natural talent and abilities that you have? And then when you start developing skills and the work comes in, what is something you're going to wake up every day wanting to do, wanting to try and wanting to get better at? And then once you've kind of determined that, your audience of whatever that niche is, it becomes very easy to figure out the message that you want to give them, and in turn, what medium you want to market with. And what I mean by that is, in the mortgage side, if someone wanted to do reverse mortgages, their clientele is an older clientele, right? And so direct mail is going to be a great option, and probably Facebook, because 50, 55 and older is the fastest growing segment of the Facebook community. Where if you're going after, young to middle-aged professionals who are very busy, podcasting is a great option because of the audio. You can listen to it while you're multitasking and doing a lot of different things. And so, whenever you niche down into something, it's important because it allows you to, like I said, differentiate yourself, but it also makes it easier for people to refer them. And I'll give you an example. On the real estate side, if you're just a real estate agent, well, everybody knows a lot of people that are real estate agents. But if you focus on a specific type of real estate, whether that's new construction, whether that's move up buyers, whether that's empty nesters, whether that's a certain type of property, what happens is now whenever someone says, "Hey, I need to find a real estate agent," they say, "Hey, I have a good friend who focuses on lake condos, but I bet you they know someone that can help you." Right. And so they may discount that you can help them on the front end, but you've at least come up in conversation. And a lot of times you can say, "Oh yeah, well, I focus a lot on condos, but I also do this thing over here." And so that's kind of what happened with me in the mortgage industry. Is I built a podcast around mortgage marketing, which is a very, very specific topic. And it's opened up to where we not only talk about broad real estate topics and broad mortgage topics, but you get marketing minds like Gary Vee and things like that. And so I say that as whenever you dominate in one segment, it just opens up the door to a lot of other things, where I think people think if you niche down, it's going to limit the things that you can do. And that's just not the case.
Well, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there, because one of the buzzwords these days, I feel like, is attraction marketing, and the idea of just simply being visible. And I think that having that niche or that focus or an area that you dominate and you can really communicate yourself as an expert, all that does is give you content. Because I think that the sticking point for most people with becoming visible and getting out there and getting their face out there is that they don't know what to talk about. They don't know what to say. And it's like we get stuck thinking that what we're talking about is about how we're going to get a deal. And if we're self-serving, then we just freeze up and don't take action. If what we're talking about is how we're going to serve a certain subset of the community, then we've got plenty to talk about, plenty of
Absolutely.
ways to collaborate with others and provide value, provide resources.
Totally agree. And I'll give you an example that just popped to mind as you were saying that is one of my loan officers is partnering with a realtor who is literally building a web page and content around amenities within gated communities. And that's what the whole website is about, is to pick certain amenities and certain subdivisions that have all these things come up. Well, a lot of people could think, well, if I'm not wanting to live in a gated community or I'm not in that price range, well, that's not my realtor. And that's absolutely not the case. She does as much, if not more, business outside of gated communities, but she provided this great resource, to your point, that she was able to talk about and create conversations around. Well, that opens up other conversations of other types of amenities or features within homes that aren't in gated communities, but they started very, very niche, and they were able to really build out, past that. And again, I think it's all in how you decide who it is, the audience that you're wanting to talk to. She realized the audience is, I want to work with people that can afford in nice subdivisions, they're larger priced homes or larger sized loan amounts. And then from there, gave value to that specific audience. And she's doing it through a web page because that's a great medium. And then it kind of flows from there. But to your point, if you just say, well, I want to talk to home buyers. Well, there's lots of things that you can talk about there, and you end up just being another voice in a mass of voices trying to offer the same type of information.
Yeah. So let me ask you something. You mentioned something earlier about if you were targeting, 50 to 55 and older, this is how you would market. And then now we're talking about, once you figure out your niche, then this is how you would get that message out there through this particular social media medium or whatever the case might be. My question is, do you feel that some version of online branding and social media is 100% critical for every real estate professional? Or do you feel like if somebody wants to run their business, let's just say the old school way of handwritten notes, phone calls, and face-to-face, are they missing out if they're not building their brand online as well? Or can you stay in your lane and let that be your niche? Like, can you just be the person that doesn't have the Instagram page and doesn't use Instagram to attract business, but crushes it because you make consistently 10 outbound phone calls every single day, 5 handwritten notes, X number of face-to-face appointments?
So my answer to that question is both. And I know they sound contradictory, but let me explain. I think it is crucial to have an online presence. You need to have a website. We know that. We need to have social media profiles. You need to be visible on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram at minimum, if not YouTube, Twitter, and a couple of others. You have to be on there, and it has to give at least a little bit of information about you and who you are and what you do and that type of thing. But if people are able to build their brand by knocking doors, making phone calls, shaking hands, and doing it the quote unquote old school way, and that's working for you, I would say do that, but you also need to be growing as well, right? I grew up in this industry on taking on a computer on MapQuest and picking all the real estate offices where I wanted to go make phone calls on, and having a Xerox box full of flyers that had the big black binder clips on the top of them. And I went from office to office and laid out flyers, and I shook hands and I kissed babies and hand out business cards and all the things that you do. So that's how I built my business. It was 100% referral from Realtor. As my business has progressed, I'm still very much the business has been done, is being done, and will always be done based upon relationships. But when you talk about online, if you're not online where people can find you, people will never, your business is always going to have a ceiling on it. I have a phrase that I say a lot in my podcast, which is effective marketing is the balance of trust and attention. I could light myself on fire, put it on Facebook, but that doesn't mean someone's going to trust that they can do business with me. At the same time, I could be the most trusted mortgage or real estate professional out there, but if no one knows who I am and people can't find me, I'm still not going to do very much business. So my advice to people in that demographic or in that category of, hey, I've done it this way, it works. That's great. Continue to do it, but you also have to understand where the industry is going. If you look at the National Association of Realtors Generational Trends report. It's getting ready to come out again. It comes out every April. The one from last year showed that 99% of people were online at some point during the home process. And I think it's close to 2/3 of people started their home search online before they ever talked to a realtor, before they ever talked to a mortgage professional. So you need to be out there in that ecosystem to have opportunities and at-bats. And for those people like, well, but I'm not good online, I don't know how to run ads. That's fine. Take those relationships offline. Use social media as a way to connect with people, to put out a little bit of content, to communicate with people if that's how they like to communicate. But at the end of the day, even though I'm very much in the social media marketing space, the whole purpose is to create a connection to take that relationship offline. Now, that may be through FaceTime or a phone call or through a Zoom like this or something, but we're still creating a relationship independent of just our social media profiles. And so I think both are equally important. If you're really good and have a system of doing business, do it that way and get results. But you also need to be mindful of how the industry is going. And, half of all new mortgages in the United States are millennials at 36, 37 and younger. Now that's not half of all home purchases or home sales, but that is of half of all new mortgages. And so we're trending in a direction of people that are very social media minded, that are very community oriented, and you have to realize that that's kind of the new buyer that's coming down the pipe. So double down on what you're doing, but plan for the future.
Awesome. You touched upon something there where you were talking about how when you were starting your business, you were going with MapQuest and, your stacks of flyers, real estate company to real estate company. And I always joke that I was a little bit of a late bloomer when I got into the business. It took me about 5 years before I had any traction because I refused to do anything like that. So I commend you, number one. But number two is that I want to know your perspective because we chatted about it a little bit when we first met. I feel that lenders in today's world are missing the boat a little bit if they're only focused on how to get deals from realtors. And when interest rates go up, and they will, and the refi business dies for good, and we saw it happen in 2018, and I'm sure all the listeners experienced it, their phones were ringing and they were getting cold calls left and right from lenders who needed a deal because the refi business had dried up. And so I feel like there's a responsibility on the part of mortgage lenders to simply do more, to really level up their game and be part of the business development process, a part of the lead generation process, connecting with their database, and then reminding the database about the realtor and using it as an excuse to get back in touch with the agent and provide information that will help the agent stay connected with the past clients, because we all know that a good majority of people will admit to not keeping in touch with past clients, and it's a sad reality. So what is your perspective on that, coming from a different mortgage company than me, and as a regional VP, how are you educating lenders to really show up in a new and better way for their realtor partners and be a part of the business development process?
Another great question. So my first answer is lenders have got to partner with realtors and vice versa. Realtors need to be partnering with lenders that understand what's happening in the industry, right? You talked about repeat customers. Black Knight, which is a big data company, said that on the lending side, less than 15% of people went with the same lender that they did in their previous loan transaction, which shows that lending as an industry is very, very bad at follow-up, which is all the more reason that realtors really need to pay attention to who they're working with. If someone comes in and says, we've got great rates, we've got great service, let me show you how good our service really is, and so on and so forth, that's par. Right? Everyone should be able to do that. Everyone should be able to close fast. Everyone should have competitive rates and fees. Everyone should be, marketing with you, things like that. And it's interesting that you talk about 2018 because my partner in Industry Syndicate, my fellow co-founder, is a gentleman named Dustin Brome, who is also a realtor. He has the Massive Agent podcast for realtors. If anybody has listened to his or hasn't, I'll give him a little shout out. But when we met at a marketing conference it was a Housing Wire Engage Marketing. And we had the very first conversation we had is he said, my LinkedIn inbox is blown up with lenders that are saying, hey, let me show you how good of a marketer I am. Let me show you how good my service is. Let's go to golf. Let's go to lunch. And I'm sure our listeners will nodding their heads like, yeah, I get that all the time. What I tell my lenders to do is say, hey, listen, Right now, you need to be working your sphere of influence, your social circles. We have to go higher up in the funnel. Like I said, National Association of Realtors says 2/3, it's probably close to 3/4 of people right now go online before they ever talk to a realtor or mortgage professional. We need to be capturing those leads as well. And then instead of saying, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Realtor, let me, take you to lunch or show you how good my service is," say, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Realtor, we have a pre-approved buyer that's ready to go shopping right now. By the way, I'm a phenomenal marketer. If you want to see how I got that lead, let's go have lunch. Let's go have coffee." And then what happens, you can find are the fundamental things there of, does the realtor and loan officer, do they have a similar way that they want to do business? Do they have, personality characteristics that fit to create a true business partnership? What is each other committing to one another? But that starts with understanding that it's a two-way street. None of my loan officers start having a conversation with a realtor by saying, "Refer me all your business," or "Let me show you how good my service is." They say, "Listen, I want to create business for you. Here's how I generate leads, and we're going to give you at-bats every single month. At the same time, I'm hoping that we can win your trust, that you can trust some of your leads." And I think it's very naive of lenders to ask realtors to give them their hard-earned leads and their hard-earned business when we're not willing to go do the same first, and then show that we put our money where our mouth is. Hey, these are our buyers, right? We pre-approved them. We created these leads. Lead with that. And what happens is you have a more captive audience. And so I highly, highly recommend when realtors are, and not that realtors aren't good about interviewing lenders, but it's not just about the marketing that they're doing for you. It's what kind of marketing are they doing for themselves that they can also add real deals to what your bottom line is. I think that's so important. And the last thing I'll say on this is Fannie Mae, who is a large mortgage aggregator, they purchase up a lot of mortgages. They do studies on a regular basis. And they recently did one that was first-time home buyers under 35 and repeat home buyers over 35. And they asked them where are their largest sources of information that influence their home buying process, specifically what lender they chose. And repeat home buyers over 35, their number one resource was Realtors. Their second was personal experience. And their third was online resources, specifically Google. Now, first-time home buyers under 35, their number one resource was friends and family and their social circle. Number two was Realtors, and number three was online resources, specifically Zillow. And the reason I share that, and I can send that link to share in the show notes if you want, where people can read it for themselves. But the point that I give is that when you're talking about this next wave of home buyers, they're not just getting their resources from Realtors or online. They're also getting it from their sphere of influence and social circle. So because of that, that's why it's so important to leverage social media and video and podcasting and articles and all these different types of things, because people are asking for referrals. I mean, we're in this 5-star review world, right? Where everyone reads ratings and reviews before you patronize restaurants, and we're all sharing out, all these different things. People are paying attention to this stuff, and people trust their friends and family and social circle with referrals. That's why it's so important to be working these sources and creating relationships, especially through these online portals, because that's the way that you're going to stay top of mind when they get referred. And again, when you're talking about partnering, realtors and lenders both on each side need to make sure they're partnering with ones that are of a like mind and doing it the same way, so you can get equal results.
Yeah, I mean, I'm blown away by those statistics. I mean, I can't say I'm surprised, but they're kind of shocking numbers. And I have to tell you that on the heels of 2018 and watching what happened in the industry, I decided that my team and I would do an experiment in the beginning of 2019. And we realized that first and foremost, if the statistics are correct, then the majority of real estate agents are not great at keeping in touch with their past clients, keeping up with those past client calls. Even though they might intend to do so, they get busy, the time flies, and the next thing you know, the calls are not being made. And we felt like it was our responsibility to our partners to honor and appreciate the sacrifice they make in evenings, on the weekends, running around like crazy as the market's been so hot for all these years, trying to get our clients under contract and into homes, that we felt it was our responsibility to participate in the process of keeping those real estate agents top of mind for their past clients. So we started making these calls, and we were tracking, and I think you said that 13% of repeat buyers use the same lender we started out the year tracking everything. And by the end of January, we're at 22% repeat and referral from past client. And we had a goal of hitting 15 closings a month and having 5 of them be repeat and referral. So that would have been 33% was our goal. So we started religiously calling all the January closings from the last 5 years in January, and then February, even if we had lost touch, tail between our legs. And what was interesting is that by the end of April, 50% of our new leads were repeat and referral from past client. But the crazy part was that only 50% of those were working with the same realtor again, because the realtors had lost touch, which only reaffirmed that lenders can do so much more. Like, had we been consistent with that campaign for the years leading up to January of 2019, then maybe those past clients would not have lost touch with those real estate agents. So this is why I'm saying that this episode is important for realtors to hear and share with your lenders, to say, let's do more together. Because who doesn't want the repeat and referral from past clients? Like, that's the fun business. That's the good stuff. You know, it's not the random people you find online that bring you joy. It's those repeat clients, if they were the ones that bring you joy.
Totally.
But anyway, it's really fascinating. And I think that we're going to see, obviously we're experiencing massive change in our industry as we're recording this during the coronavirus, but we're going to continue to see massive change and evolution. And I really believe there's opportunity for lenders to rise up and be better and have a stronger commitment to their realtor partners, and that realtors can look at their lenders and say, let's do this together. And how do we create magic for our mutual clients collectively? What are your thoughts on with your experience in real estate agents who have successfully found their focus? They know what they're good at. They know what they enjoy. They're experiencing success, but they're still paralyzed with fear when it comes to that marketing and branding stuff.
Yeah, so that's a great question. When it comes to personal branding, people need to take away the stigma of a quote unquote brand and realize what personal brand means is reputation, right? I think whenever you're talking about people that are maybe scared of being in the spotlight or showcasing themselves or whatever, really what needs to replace is, hey, what you're really doing is you're nurturing and perpetuating your reputation. And most people in real estate and mortgage who have been around a while hold that very near and dear. We all know that there's a lot of, I say a lot, there's an element of our entire industry that doesn't have the greatest reputations in the world, and maybe you're considered a little bit shady. So those of us that aren't that way really hold our reputations high, and we want to work really hard to maintain that. That's really what personal branding is about, is letting people know that you're trustworthy, that you're an existing trusted professional in your space, and showcase that. You know, you can share testimonials, but it's not just about that. Show that you're knowledgeable, share relevant content that people want to pay attention to. And it's something as simple, the example that I use a lot is those of us that are parents, we'd like to know all the places where kids eat free. And so if you put out a little calendar that says, hey, Monday through Thursday, here's all the different places where kids eat free, that's content that people engage with, and you're adding value to your community. Right now in the wake of coronavirus stuff going on, not only because we're all having to stay home, is it the best time to be working on some of these systems and creating some strategies, both for yourself and whoever you're partnered with on the real estate and mortgage side. Now is the time to be finding creative ways to engage your audience. I'm not talking about just pushing the real estate business, but let people know that, hey, as a real estate professional, we're paying attention and we're still here. As mortgage professionals, we're still here. And here's some things going on in the community, right? You can, do a little link tree or a little landing page on your website where you're sharing different updates. You can share the places that are stocking up on meat and toilet paper and groceries and the things that are shortage. There's lots of things that you can do. Some cool online games for kids to play, or, be thinking as you're there, what is some stuff that you can curate? What is some information you can gather and share with people that they're going to find valuable? One of the things that we did on the mortgage side, our marketing department put a Zoom list together. Obviously, Zoom's becoming very popular as we're going into virtual things. It was like 10 or 12 tips and how-tos. And we actually shared that in a user group of a lot of other lenders. And we had like 400 people reach out and ask if they could use it from all different sides of the industry. So it's just about adding value. And what happens is, as you continue to add value for whoever your audience is, whether it's consumers, mortgage professionals, real estate professionals, whatever it is, as you add value, your quote unquote personal brand will grow, because your brand is just what people say about you. It's just what you're known for. And if you're known for someone that adds value, has a great reputation, works hard for people, that's really all it's about. It's not about creating realestateninja.com or whatever, the little branding is. It's not about the shtick. It's about who you are as a person and what people say about you. So if you're putting out good content, if you're trying to help people, and you're working on that reputation, that's what's going to create the quote unquote personal brand.
Have you ever heard of the book, The Rise of the Youpreneur by Chris Ducker?
I have heard of it, but I have not read it.
Well, it's just interesting. And I think it just goes in line with what you're saying here, which is that you, as you are, who you are, with all your imperfections and your gifts and your strengths and your weaknesses, are enough. And that how you run your business, if you can have it be authentically you, will be the best way to run your business. Like, have more fun, do what you're good at, be yourself when you're marketing, branding, whatever you want to call it, and just let people in. Let people in. They want to know you, and they love you, and they want to support you. And the more visible you can be, the more top of mind, the more unforgettable, the more likely that they will come back to you when it's time to be the repeat client, right?
Yes, totally agree. Totally agree. And I think that, again, personal branding gets kind of a bad stigma, because, again, it's like, oh, I'm trying to be me, showcase me. And again, I encourage people, I know this sounds self-serving, but go listen to my podcast episode with Gary Vaynerchuk, because he talks about this. This is one of the first questions that I asked him is, in a world where we talk a lot about online presence and personal branding, what about those people that's not the industry they grew up in, or that's not natural for them? What do they need to do? And that's the first thing he talks about. And that's where I got most of that contact, was from him directly. Let's talk about relevance. Let's talk about reputation, and go and listen to that, and really frame what it is we need to be doing on a daily and weekly basis to create that. And really all it's about is networking with people, offering value content, not being spam bots. And another little tactical piece is Facebook groups, right? And not just real estate specific Facebook groups. Go find a community of people that you relate to. That could be a triathlon group, maybe a home brewers group, maybe it's a mom's group, or whatever. Go into that group and talk to people and add value and answer questions and share things people care about. Well, we're, by human nature, whenever someone does that, we go, we're voyeurs, right? We go creep on people. There's a reason it's called, creeping on social media profiles. They'll find out you're in the real estate and mortgage industry. And what happens is you get a reputation of someone that's nice, that's adding value, that's helping. And then you stay top of mind. And what happens is, by the algorithms, by the nature of Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, as people pay attention to you and look at your profile, when you put content out, they're going to see it, right? So when you do start sharing some real estate content or mortgage content or whatever it is, they're going to see that as well. And you're able to do it in a very non-threatening way. Social media is the most uninvasive or ininvasive, whatever the right word is, way to get to know someone. Go connect with people that you want to get to know with. If you're on the real estate side, use LinkedIn. Connect with local business owners. Connect with people in your community. Get to know them. Add value. The real estate business will come. All of the transactions that you want to close, that will come if you're offering value. And that's really what all of this is about, is, again, reputation, adding value, doing that through content to whatever audience is you're trying to reach.
I love it so much. You're my brother from another mother.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I feel like we could geek out all day on this stuff. Everything, you keep saying things and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like you're reading my mind and pulling information.
Great minds think alike.
I love it. But yeah, I don't want to take any more of your time. And I just feel like you're obviously a wealth of knowledge when it comes to marketing. Guys, Phil is a keynote speaker. He's the host of the Mortgage Marketing Expert podcast, which is not just mortgage specific, but it's a wealth of information. I would highly recommend you guys subscribe and follow it. And for sure, download the app, the Industry Syndicate. It's an app, correct? It's separate
Yeah,
from.
correct. So Industry Syndicate is our collective of a bunch of different podcast shows, but we do have an app. It's available on the Apple App Store and Google Play for Android users. Just Google Industry Syndicate. You can download it. It'll ask for a name and an email address. We don't spam you or anything like that. It's just to create a little profile. And you can discover our other shows. You can network with show hosts and content creators, as well as our user community. We put some content through there, but it'll help you discover other shows within mortgage and real estate that are talking about these types of things. We have created a collaborative of people that are like-minded, that are talking about these type of topics, about moving the industry forward, things of that nature. My podcast is just mmepodcast.com, mortgage marketing expert. We have a large audience of real estate professionals as well, because again, the content is transcendent. We're not talking about interest rates and loan programs. In fact, that's never talked about. I can promise you that. We're talking about people building businesses, creating relationships, marketing tactics. Again, I niched down into a very specific category of the industry I was part of, and it's allowed me to have an audience of people like you. And I'm very, very grateful that you've had me on, for sure.
I love it. Well, how else can people follow you and find you? Social media, et cetera.
Yeah, pretty easy. I'm at Phil Treadwell on all the socials, mmepodcast.com and then philtreadwell.com are the easiest ways to get in touch. You should be able to find me on social media. Definitely reach out if you have any questions or if I can help in any way. Love talking to people. And yes, I could geek out about this stuff all day long.
It's awesome. Well, it's clear you're passionate about it. You're bringing a ton of value to the industry. And I just really appreciate you being here today. Thanks again.
Thanks again. I appreciate you having me.
All right, friends. As always, I appreciate you. I also wanted to let you guys know, exciting announcement. The new website, pursuingfreedom.com, is live, and there are lots of free resources there that you can download. And if you didn't get a chance to participate in the free masterclass on April 8th, you can download the free masterclass, which is how to stay positive and productive in the current real estate market, and 5 strategies you can implement today to better manage your energy and positively impact your community. So as always, I'm here for you. I appreciate you. Connect with me, comment, leave a review. I always ask. I appreciate you. Have an awesome day, and we'll see you next time.